What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we're gonna do a quick recap of the Alexander Usyk Daniel Dubois fight yesterday. Before we get started, I want to shout out to everybody that was here yesterday that joined us. It was the longest day I probably ever had when it comes to like doing content. Like we did the entire Usyk Dubois card, and then we went on and did the Bam Rodriguez card and also the Manny Pacquiao card. So it was a really long day. We was actually live from 12:30 in the afternoon to 12:30 in the morning. Well, right in the evening, me to say that. And we had a good time. Thank you for everyone that supported me in any kind of way. All the people that joined us, all the people that liked the videos, all the people that sent donations. And if you are new to the channel and you are a new subscriber and supporter of the channel, I want to say welcome and I hope you enjoy the ride. All right. So we saw what happened last night. If you didn't know, Usyk stops Dubois again in the fifth round, much earlier this time in a much easier fashion. And I was able to get up this morning and review the, rewatch the fight. See if there was any key things that I noticed in this time around. And to be honest, man, I really just think that because all the discussions now is about Usyk and his legacy and how does he compare to the other greats of all time and all those kind of things. Um, First off, let's get through the review of the fight. When it comes to Daniel Dubois, and when I compare him and I rewatch, the first thing I do is not I just don't rewatch the fight, but I also like to compare um, the first fight, Usyk against other fighters, like AJ and Tony Bellew, and just to compare and see why exactly is Dubois getting stopped by Usyk in a simple fashion. Like he's literally the first fight. I guess it was more competitive because it went longer. No, it went longer, but I don't feel like it was more competitive. I think the first fight it went further because they didn't have any experience in fighting each other. First of all, right? And then you had Dubois who was like attacking the body. I know some of the shots were low, but Dubois, at least in that fight, he had success somewhere, you know. Where in this fight, he really, the third, fourth rounds, he did good, but he didn't have anything that really truly worked for him. And I actually think it's just simple boxing. I just think that Dubois' style is all wrong for Usyk. This is why Usyk had better success against guys like, I mean, not better success, but he had more issues against guys like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Even though Dubois destroyed Anthony Joshua, um, Usyk had issues against Joshua. He beat him clearly, but he had issues against Anthony Joshua. And it's simple. You got a southpaw fighting an orthodox fighter in Dubois. So the success that Dubois had against AJ, for example, right? AJ is a righty as well. When it comes to the jab of Triple D, he had more success. It looked so good in that fight. Why? Because he's not fighting the southpaw. The lead hand is not in the way of his hand. It's more fencing involved in against Usyk. Whereas in the Joshua fight, he had a clear view of Joshua's head. A lot of it is the jab when it came to that fight. So in this fight here, you have Usyk's lead hand against Dubois' lead hand, which Usyk had the superior lead hand. Why? Because with his jab, it's the angle with the jab. He's punching around Dubois' lead hand, right? He's jabbing from the outside or he's stepping on the inside and shooting that jab, which Dubois normally, when his jab is very successful, he has a clear view of his opponent, which he didn't have in this fight. So this is why in the first round, this is why we saw Usyk popping his head back because Usyk is stepping in at an angle and leaning over, or he's shooting it over the lead hand of Dubois on the outside. And in that area, Dubois is just not the superior fighter because Usyk, we already know, I broke this down. That lead hand is a magic wand. He's moving it around. He's fainting, and then he's changing levels. He's doing so much stuff to throw off Dubois' timing. You can see the frustration in the first round that Dubois had because he's dealing with movement now. He's dealing with a guy that's just not using the ring, but he's bouncing. He's throwing off the rhythm, and Dubois doesn't know what to do when it comes to that. This isn't AJ. This isn't uh, Hergovich. Or Gerald Miller. These are not the guys he just beat. You know, so that's the first issue. Then you got the backhand. They both have the clear view of each other, but with Usyk, with all that movement, you can't get the timing down on when the proper time to shoot it. Where Usyk has the advantage there as well. You know, Usyk is just better when it comes to that. Dubois is just too stationary. So even though he has power, yes, he has a good jab, yes, he's explosive. It's the timing of Usyk that's completely throwing him off. Usyk is also the better defender. He moves his head better. He moves his upper body, right? He's slipping when he's leaning to the side. He has his hands up as well. So with all the movement that Usyk does, he's also keeping his hands up. Unlike Anthony Joshua, who had his hands down, and it was an easier target for Daniel Dubois. Look, I can go on and on and on about all the things that Usyk did right compared to the other opponents of Daniel Dubois. All right. But at the end of the day, it's a completely different level here. This is an ATG quality fighter. This is not one of the top heavyweights. Okay. There's a lot of top heavyweights that's come and gone throughout the years. You had Dillian White, you had Povetkin, you had Luis Ortiz, you had Deontay Wilder. Some of them were champions. Some of them are really good. Some of them may become Hall of Famers, like Tyson Fury. Probably going to be a future Hall of Famer. But something that Usyk does when it comes to his IQ is just on a different level. And Daniel Dubois just did not know how to do it. His fight was much easier for Usyk. I think that's the one thing I want to backtrack when it came to the first fight compared to the second. It was an easier fight for Usyk because he knew what he was dealing with. And I think people were overhyped. The confidence of Daniel Dubois, those wins that Triple D had recently, everybody was overhyping and not really looking at what both guys do in the actual ring. They were overlooking all of those things, like Usyk being a southpaw, like Usyk's movement and his counterpuncher. On top of that, he's a way superior counterpuncher. And this is why there was moments in the fight, including the stoppage in the fifth round, where Usyk was comfortable enough to back himself into a corner and lure Daniel Dubois right in because he knew what Dubois was going to do. He knew what he was going to do. Usyk in that fifth round, and this is how the fight was 2 knockdowns in the fifth round. Usyk lured Daniel Dubois after he caught Dubois with a couple good shots. He knows Daniel Dubois likes to return fire. He likes to come back. When he gets hit with a good shot, the crowd reacts, and Daniel Dubois went right in. And I feel like Dubois, definitely, and Lennox Lewis said it, Dubois' best chances outside of going to the body was to punch with Usyk. Because there was periods there where he was punching with him. But the thing is, when Daniel Dubois punches, he's throwing hooks, but he's not looking and paying attention to what's getting thrown back at him. Whereas Usyk, he's throwing, he's exchanging, but he's leaning back. He's looking for the hook that Daniel Dubois is throwing. He's looking for it while he's throwing. So in every sense, in every area, when it comes to Daniel Dubois and Usyk is greater. He's superior. He has the better chin. He's a better counterpuncher. He has the better timing. He has the IQ is greater overall. Better jab, all right? And when I say chin, at this point, the 3 fighters that Daniel Dubois has lost to, Usyk, I'm sorry, not the 3 fighters, because it's only 2, right? But the 3 losses that he has were all by stoppage. And no, Usyk did not hit him with the hardest shots when he went down the first time. When he went down the first time, it wasn't the cleanest shots, but it was too much. It was too much. Triple D, when it comes to his durability or punch resistance, and when it comes to his mental, it's fair to say that he can't really take it. He can dish it out, but he can't really take it. Because I've seen Usyk land harder shots against Fury and even Anthony Joshua. He can dish it out. When he's in control, he's phenomenal. When he's in control, he's phenomenal. But when it got too tough, he couldn't do it. And he was burnt out. Just like a lot of fighters that had a little bit of success against Usyk in the past, at some point, even if you're having a Michael Hunter, Breedis, Bellew, the even Chisora, who had success, all of these guys, to keep that pace going, Fury, to keep the pace going, you have to completely fight at a high level all 12 rounds, which none of these guys can do. And even at 38 years old, Usyk, all of these guys, just about all of them, he was still finding ways to outwork these guys. Because in the third and fourth round, Usyk slowed down a bit. And I was calling it out on a live commentary video. I said, Usyk, these are the moments where Daniel Dubois should be taking advantage of Usyk. Usyk is still not in his prime. He's outside of his prime. Because I see him getting tired. Even though he's fighting at a high level, there's points where he takes breaks. I saw it in the Tyson Fury fight. I noticed it in the AJ fights. But he's even older now. And he still has better cardio than these young 20-something years olds and still outworking them. But the way he does it is not just always having the better cardio, but the accuracy and the effect of his clean punches is too much for guys like Daniel Dubois. Stylistically, Dubois is going to beat a lot of these heavyweights. And he will continue to go on in his career and beat some of these other guys that's out there and some of the guys that's on the come up probably. But at the end of the day, stylistically, this was all wrong. Because Usyk was a superior jabber. He had a superior backhand. He was a superior counterpuncher. And he has the better defense and the better chin and the better reflexes. Daniel Dubois, while throwing, he's too stiff. And even though he's improved in certain areas, right? I was bringing this up yesterday. His punch selection, the variety of his punches are improved compared to what he was in the 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 Gorman fight, or some of the other fights that he had earlier in his career. The variety is better, but defensively he's still very stiff. And being that he didn't have the jab control here, it forced him to be very, very limited. Just too stiff. So even though, listen, I think Queensberry, I think they did, Frank Warren, I think they did a phenomenal job at selling the fight. They made people believe that he had a real chance, you know, um, because of those last few performances. Beating AJ the way that he did was super overhyped. AJ, when it comes to Dubois and AJ, we heard the sparring stories. Dubois just has his number. But AJ against Usyk is a tougher fight. It's a tougher fight because the styles is just different. You know what I mean? Those strengths that AJ have or Fury have, just tougher fights. You know what I mean? I think it's really that simple. I really don't think that Dubois can do anything for Usyk. You know, so where do Usyk go on from here? I mean, I personally think he should retire. He seems like he still wants to fight. I think his legacy is already solidified. I think his legacy was solidified when he beat Tyson Fury for undisputed. You know, and for the people that still felt that Fury edged it, he beat him in a rematch. So after beating him more clearly in a rematch, there's nothing I need from Usyk. I know people want to see the Parker fight. Some people want to see the Kabayel fight. Some people want to see the Jai Opatai fight. Some people in Turkey is already saying he wants to see the Moses Atama fight. These are all good fights. But as far as legacy is concerned, I believe that Usyk doesn't have to do anything. I don't think he should go back down to cruiserweight. I know maybe a fight or two ago he was talking about doing that. Um, I don't think he has to do anything. If he wants to give us more fights, then that's cool. But I don't think legacy wise, I think he's done more than enough to proven that he is one of the greats all time. Okay. And like I broke it down, and I will do it in a separate video because I have a lot to say about that. Because I know people get caught in a moment and they start saying people are the greatest of all time. We can talk more about that. I talked a little bit about it last night, but I definitely want to make a video and talk more about Usyk and, when it comes to the other greats from different generations like Muhammad Ali or Evander Holyfield and some of the other guys. I think I will just say this. I think Usyk deserves to be in the conversation. But I also feel like this is not the close or even close to the greatest heavyweight era. I think some of these fighters from today are very limited. Yes, some of them are athletic. Some of them are huge. But I don't think when it comes to skills, Usyk, when it comes to these heavyweights, and I'm gonna say something very, I might as well talk about it a little bit because I'm starting to talk about it. When it comes to some of these fighters, even at the heavyweight division right now, and I've said this before, and some of you might feel this very controversial, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Marius Briedis, at the time that he fought Usyk, is better than these heavyweights that Usyk has fought. I've said this before, and I'm going to stand on it. That includes Tyson Fury. Marius Briedis, to me, you might not agree, but I think when it comes to skills, when it comes to talent, I think when it comes to ability, I think Marius Briedis is better than these heavyweights. I don't know if he would beat them all at heavyweight, but I know that from what I see, I think the majority just have a size advantage. I don't think they have more ability than Marius Briedis. I don't think, if you go back and watch the Tony Bellew fight, I don't believe that these guys would do better than Tony Bellew did against Usyk. Tony Bellew and his counter right hand was more problematic than any of these other heavyweights was able to do that. And if you watch that fight, and I've watched it many times, Usyk proceeded with caution. He was very cautious fighting guys like Tony Bellew. We know he stopped him because Bellew just couldn't keep up. Same thing with Briedis. He just couldn't keep up. Michael Hunter was doing good. It was a good war, but he just couldn't keep it up. At the end of the day, these heavyweights have their size against Usyk is a huge disadvantage because they're bigger, they're slower, they're less fundamentally sound. They're just big guys that have a lot of punching power. But Usyk has not been dropped by any of them. Not one of them has even dropped them in a fight. Oh, he got hurt. Like AJ hurt him to the body. Dubois hurt him to the body. Tyson Fury hurt him with an uppercut. These guys buzzed him, but he recovered and was able to still come back and beat them, stopping a couple of them, nearly stopping AJ. So I think when we're going into the whole heavyweight, and heavyweight and cruiserweight is separate for me when it comes to Usyk. Heavyweights, this heavyweight division is very fun. I love these guys from Parker to Parker to Wilder, from Fury, you know, and on and on. All these guys that was here during this time. It was a great fun ride. It was a fun. It was more fun. It was the most fun we got since the '90s, in my opinion. Okay, I think the Klitschko era was slow, boring, and there was a many. It wasn't that many good guys there. So I think in this time, I think I enjoyed it. I liked the opposition, but I'm gonna stop it there. I don't think beating Daniel Dubois makes you an all-time great. Um, I think Dubois is one of the top guys right now, but I don't think Dubois, Fury, Joshua, Wilder. I don't think that these guys. I can't. I think Fury is the only one that I can see giving some of these guys trouble, and I'm saying that Fury wouldn't beat some of these guys from the past. But when I think of ability and just talent, I think Usyk is the only one that really can do well in any era. If you guys understand what I'm saying, I don't think he's the greatest, but I think he is good enough to run and beat some of the guys from the past and lose to some of them. But these wins are great wins, and he's the greatest of this time for sure. Um, as far as heavyweights, I think he's definitely made it clear that he's the best cruiserweight and heavyweight of this time. It's clear to me. But all time throughout the history of the sport, I think he deserves to be in the conversation in who's better. But as far as just saying that he's the best, I think that's a little far fetched. No, it's very far fetched. All right, so that's my thoughts on that. We'll talk more about it throughout the week. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.